Agriculture is one of the main topics at this summit. Officials from Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa highlighted key issues around deepening agricultural trade within the group and the challenges that exist. CGTN's Julie Shire was at the forum and now reports.
Increasing agricultural trade was in the spotlight at the 15th BRICS Summit in Johannesburg. Member states, India and China, are big importers of food, but little is traded amongst the 5 nations.
We are important in a big market that is roughly over $300 billion. And China and India make up roughly about 85% of that. So we think about how do you deepen trade amongst ourselves, because most of those products, they actually coming from outside the BRICS.
One of South Africa's biggest farming companies exports most of its apples, pears and avocados to the United Kingdom, Europe and other parts of Africa. It does, however, believe expansion lies beyond those borders.
CZ2's mission is to grow the export market further and is hoping the BRICS Summit will open doors into China and India.
I see the Indo-Pacific region as a very important target long-term for South African produce. We have all the resources in South Africa, but also Southern Africa. And the distance from our ports to the destinations, the harbors in the Indo-Pacific region, is shorter most of the time than it is to our traditional markets into Europe or the US.
A small percentage of South African produce goes to Brazil, Russia, India and China, although these markets hold huge potential for South Africa.
Our local markets are saturated, so there's not a lot of opportunity to grow there. If you want to enter into the business with marketable products in the local market, international trade normally gives you higher margins if you're efficient. We should be able to grow the agricultural industry with leaps and bounds.
Delegates agree that tough conditions which govern food exports need to be addressed.
The key thing when we're thinking about trade that we're putting on the table is how do you lower the import tariffs, and also how do you deal with phytosanitary barriers. So those are things that needs to happen. It's one thing to say let's deal with trade, but trade is not happening because the tariffs are higher and there are phytosanitary barriers.
South Africa exported a record $12.8 billion worth of agricultural products in 2022, around half of what it produced. The country is pinning its hopes on the BRICS nations to grow that further. Julie Shire, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.